Hey guys, Omni here. Yesterday I finished my playthrough of The Last of Us Part 2 over on my Twitch channel, and I wanted to give it a day or so to kind of collect my thoughts and feelings after having just finished it, because there is a lot to take in. And, you know, if you want to get my initial or raw reactions to it, my playthrough is up on my YouTube channel as well from beginning to end. You can check that out if you like. But I think where I ended up landing is somewhere in the middle, and I feel like that's puts me in a no-win scenario here for sure. Because it seems like from what I've seen in social media, on the review sites and everything like that, it seems to be one way or the other. There's only two camps with this game, that it's either trash or it's a masterpiece. And honestly, I didn't think that it was either. I don't think it would and definitely didn't reach the heights that the first game did. I love The Last of Us 1. Just the characters and the dynamic of Ellie and Joel was just so enthralling, and I loved it. And even the ending, I thought it was perfect. I thought it was a great way to leave off with these characters. And when they announced that there was a second game coming, I was like, man, I wasn't as excited as some people were, because I was like, man, I thought that ending was perfect. I feel like we didn't need to touch it and come back to it. But they made some bold decisions, and they went into it knowing that it was going to be divisive, and they weren't wrong about that. This has definitely left the entire fan base completely divided. And I think I got to commend them for doing something like that, not doing just kind of coming in and kind of cashing in on it, even though some people might think they did that. But I think that there's enough care and attention to detail and love that went into this, whether you like how it turned out or not, that I don't get that feeling about it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have taken 7 years for them to make it. It was just going to be a cash grab. That's just kind of my initial thoughts on it too. But they decided not to do anything conventional and just took a big swing at taking this story into a whole other direction and really challenging the fan base. And I think I just got to commend them for that and doing something different and doing something challenging. And I think that while I understand the message and the tone and the themes of the game, I feel like they didn't quite hit the ball in some of those areas. There's, as far as the plot goes, and I'm going to stay as spoiler free as possible, because I don't like being the purveyor of everything that is going on surrounding this game. You know, we had the leaks, we had things just being spread around. I mean, there was people that went back on one of my year-old reactions to the very first trailer that ever came out for this, who spoiled the game for me. Went back, and when the leaks happened, which was not that long before the game even came out, went back, found the very first trailer, found my reaction to it, threw the spoilers right on there. So that's one of the things that I did go into this game knowing at least the main huge spoiler that got a lot of people upset. And I gotta say that, at least as far as the way the plot gets going, again, I'm not going to go into details. I do think there was some conveniences, some things that they really needed to get into place to get the ball rolling with the story that they wanted to tell. And I feel like it didn't quite land or execute in the way that they wanted it to and I think that's very evident by a lot of people. And I know there's a lot of people that are commenting on this, posting the reviews and, you know, bombing this thing, who have just refuse to even play it, haven't played it for themselves at all, and are just taking the leaks at face value and trashing the game based on that, which I think is childish and stupid. That's why I disregarded it completely. I was like, I will see this in the context that it was intended to be and give you guys my honest thoughts on my reaction to the game after the fact. I didn't want to let the leaks persuade me. I didn't want them to kind of weigh in on my decisions, whether I like them or not. I think that some of the things that kind of kicked off the story were not executed in the best of ways, in the ways a little bit of, there's a couple of holes you could kind of poke into it here and there, but it gets the ball rolling. We're introduced to a couple of new characters, new faces in this game as well. And there's quite a few that I didn't like, and I don't think you're really meant to like them. But there's quite a few that I really did. Dina was a really endearing character. I really loved Jesse, and I love the bits we saw with him. Lev, Yara, and the big new character, Abby. I thought they did a really good job with those characters. Abby, it took a little longer for you to get won over by. And it was really in the last third of her story, that we're seeing with her that I thought that they really started to do that. It took a lot, and a lot of it wasn't handled that great. A lot of it was very heavy-handed. A lot of things in the game was not subtle by any stretch of the imagination, and that's why I think it didn't get until the last third of the game before I finally got on board for what they were trying to do. So this game, it, like I said, it takes some swings. It does some things that story-wise, plot-wise, doesn't quite land, but I think the idea that they get across eventually gets you into the right ballpark. Again, talking about this game without details, without spoilers, without spoiling anything is next to impossible. So I'm trying to make this make as much sense as I can without spoiling anything if you are lucky enough to have avoided any of the stuff regarding this game. I think that there's a heart to this game that is missing. There is definitely this game is it is a triumph of darkness. This is a bleak game. It is a hopeless game in a lot of ways, and I think that's kind of the point. There's a lot of themes of revenge, a lot of themes of forgiveness. There's a lot of themes of self-worth that they deal in with this, and where that leads, cycles of violence, violence begetting violence and stuff like that. Like I said, it's not all handled very gracefully, but the themes are felt, and it's very easy to get on board with what they're trying to convey, whether or not they're doing it very well. There's going to be a lot of people it just doesn't work for. There's going to be a lot of people that do like it. But what this game does really well is the gameplay. It is still fantastic, and that's also one of its other hindrances. There's not a lot of innovation. There's only a few things that you can do that you couldn't do before, and there's not a lot of huge leaps as far as gameplay sequences, variations of gameplay that occur in this that didn't happen in the previous game. But on the flip side, the game is much more detailed, much more gorgeous, and it handles a lot better. It is a quality of life improvement overall from the first game as far as the handling, the traversal, and all of that. And the game, of course, being made on this newer gen system takes advantage of all that. This is one of the most beautiful games I've played in a really long time. The attention to detail, the level design, all of that is just mind-blowing. I do think this game is a little longer than it needed to be. I think there's a lot of padding and a lot of sequences in this game that either go on for too long with some of the stealth sections, some of the combat sections go on a lot longer than they need to, and there's a lot of times where nothing's going on and you're just kind of in the world, and I think that it drags out the game. This game is roughly 10 to 12 hours longer than the first game, and it feels like it. You definitely feel it. It's just like it gets to a point, and I think the pacing of the game doesn't really help it too much too. I understand it thematically why they paced it the way they did. There's a method to their madness. I just think that if they had reordered a couple of things, it might have worked a little bit better. But overall, the performances in this were fantastic. The animations and the motion capture were gorgeous and well done. The voice cast behind this game, just like with the previous one, is phenomenal. And for me, it's those pacing issues, it's that drawn out gameplay, and it's some of those kind of clunky ways that they did this narrative and the narrative, some bits of the narrative itself that kind of hurt the game a bit for me. I didn't hate the game. I didn't love it. I thought it was a well put together game. I don't think it lives up to the original. I do think it was very ambitious. And I think at the end of the day, where I settle in with it, with the negatives, with the positives and all of that, I feel like for me, this game is more like a 7 out of 10. I think this is a pretty well-deserved, above average game when you compare it to anything else out there on the market. But when you compare it to The Last of Us 1 and a lot of Naughty Dog's other games, it just kind of, it doesn't meet that same standard in a lot of those ways too. And I think with some of the decisions that they made with the story, for me personally, a lot of it worked, some of it didn't. And I think that didn't help either. And like I said, with the lulls in gameplay, the pacing, the extended situations that you get yourselves into, that it honestly did get me frustrated a lot of the times when I was playing through some of these sections, because I was just like, oh my gosh, why isn't this over yet? Or, oh my gosh, when is something going to happen? It's a little, I don't know. I feel like it just could have been structured better, paced better, and maybe if some of the story elements were reoriented in a different order, I think some of it might have been a little more effective for me. And your experience is going to be completely different from mine. I don't know how likely I am to go back and play this one, to be completely honest. Because it, like I said, it's emotionally torturous. It is a challenge of humanity to go through it. It is bleak. It is violent. It is just dehumanizing, and it is not. It's not a fun ride. I mean, some of the gameplay elements are really fun, but as far as the story goes, it's bleak. It's very challenging, and while I respect that, it doesn't make me really excited to go back and relive it. So that also kind of hurts the game a little bit to me as well, as far as how I rate it, because I think replayability is something that I find really important. And as much as I applaud them for the direction they took the game in, I don't know that I want to go through it again and relive it. Maybe just kind of skipping through the story and just playing some of the gameplay elements, maybe. But again, some of those I felt frustrated by as well. The game's beautiful. I can't take that away from it. It is gorgeous. A lot of love, a lot of work went into it. But this is going to be a divisive game, but I didn't hate it. Didn't love it. What are your thoughts on the game? And this is where I'm going to open it up for you guys. Don't hate me just because I didn't hate this game, just because I didn't love this game. Sound off in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll carry on the conversation after the video. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care, everybody.